for one, it's very rewarding because I feel like we hear sometimes horror stories of Black leaders, especially Black women, having to, you know, bring up any sort of inequitable conditions that they might be working in, and usually do all the heavy lifting of either, organizing some sort of training or talking to, leadership to get them to take action. And a lot of the times that sort of work is, it's not compensated either, monetarily, or it could just be very exhausting work on someone mentally. And so being able to see these organizations come to us and be like, we want to, expand or start our DEI journey, and giving Black leaders the space to, safely bring up inequitable conditions or voice their concerns without necessarily having to be the ones to do that heavy lifting, especially if you're not trained as a DEI coach or a consultant. How do you even go about that sort of work? You create a task force that's voluntary, and it can be kind of a dead end sometimes, especially if the conditions aren't right at an organization to start that sort of work. And so knowing that there are, Black leaders that are being able to engage in this work, but also, if need be, they're not the ones at like the head of an entire organization's DEI work, and they're able to take a step back when they need to, because at the end of the day, they're the ones who are facing, microaggressions, or are feeling any sort of hostility that their white and non-Black coworkers aren't feeling. So I think for me, that is the best part of this work, is knowing that there are Black leaders that are being able to take care of themselves in a way that, if they're not coming to, Catalyst Ed and trying to do this project with an actual trained consultant who's able to, take the reins on whatever DEI trainings or work that they want to do. I think for me, I see a lot of value in that, and it makes the work that we do really rewarding personally. And I'm just glad that we're at this point, in the educational sphere specifically, that there are organizations that are allowing this sort of work to be taken off as a burden for a lot of Black leaders. Yeah, I mean, so my background originally isn't in education, but it is in the nonprofit sphere. So, a lot of people talk about what does DEI mean? How do we create equitable workplaces? And just being able to see what exactly it is that different organizations are struggling with kind of has made me take a step back and examine what my past experiences have been like, and being like, oh, my past working situation was actually very similar to this organization's, and maybe it wasn't as equitable as I originally thought. And so I'm able to kind of reflect and think about what does it actually mean to have an equitable workplace. And I think that's been really helpful just going forward and thinking about what I want in a workplace. I'm really early in my career. And so, what are things that I consider an equitable workplace that I hope you know, at Catalyst Ed and whatever future employers I may have, like, are they creating equitable situations in the workplace? I'm obviously like a non-Black person, so I don't experience, every intersection of, marginalized identity. But there are certain identities that I live in that, I experience, these weird moments sometimes at work, especially if you're working at a predominantly white like organization or school or whatever it may be. So I think I'm like able to build a checklist of what I desire and what I think, is the bare minimum a workplace should be doing, and what I should look out for in myself as well as like a coworker or, a manager or something like that.